Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best builds for each Vault Hunter in Borderlands 4, and that was in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. Each of the characters actually has a really strong build. And I'd have to say that the strongest Vault Hunters is either Rafa or Harlowe. I actually think it's Harlowe in specific builds. And then third place we got Vex and fourth Amon, but all of them have builds that can destroy bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. I'll first start off with Vex, who has a very powerful skill tree with her Vexcalation here and the green skill tree with Incarnate, because you get the Witchy Trigger Finger here, which allows you to get infinite ammo because every time you hit with an Eldritch Blast, you refill your ammunition. This is really crazy on Toric Stickies, which scale up in damage the more stickies that you have on an enemy before reloading. And we also get a very powerful ability with Heart Piercer here, which sacrifices our health, but we do get health back upon using this. And the craziest part about the green skill tree is it's got Lifesteal, and that's what makes this build so powerful. Further enhanced by the Teen Witch class mod. The reason this is so good is now our lifesteal will apply partially to shields and then over shields. So we become unkillable when using this. It also has a flat out 10% lifesteal that's added on top of the 10% that you can get from using the leeching attunement, on top of the 10% from Essence Leech that becomes 20% when their action skill is active. And with that class mod, you can also get Grave Thirst, which gives you a 9% increase in overall lifesteal, which is crazy when you also consider the fact that Blood is Power is adding 300% of our lifesteal back as bonus kinetic damage. When you got this skill up, that's actually adding 1.25 or 1.2 times the amount of gun damage as bonus damage. This makes it so that we can one-shot bosses really easily. Another nice thing is you also get the Phase Pocket skill tree here in the green skill tree. It gives us 30% magazine size. This doesn't sound like much, but it gives us a lot of leeway when we're using the Witchy Trigger Finger. So if you're using the Bod Shotgun, for example, which is the best gun for every character in this game, what's great about this with the Toric Stickies is that it only has 6 bullets, but this is further now increased to 8 or 7, depending if you got your action skill active. And these will apply 15% bonus damage or 50% extra damage for every shot that you land on the enemy. So if you're spamming your action skill, so you basically just fire it away, that doesn't do a crazy amount of damage unless you hit multiple. So you're going to fire till you have 1 ammunition left. You're going to activate your ordnance or your action skill there, fire till you have 1 ammunition left, shoot your Eldritch Blast, then you can just keep spamming these here, doing both of them, and the boss's health bar gets deleted really fast. And this will destroy every vault boss in Borderlands 4 in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 really, really quickly. I also don't see Toric Stickies getting nerfed anytime because there's a few different builds that actually utilize them very well, and they won't be able to nerf it because we have 2 skills here that you can't really change. Now, not everyone likes the leeching attunement because you have to use kinetic-based weapons, and I just want to mention that you actually have the attunement for 6 seconds, and if you have a specific class mod, it lasts a little bit longer. But what you can do is you can use 2 kinetic and 2 elemental weapons and keep swapping between them because it's going to give you this leeching attunement for 6 seconds after you swap off your weapon or while you have a kinetic-based weapon. Now, another great thing is actually there's a lot of kill skills here with Grave Sights giving it critical hit damage and gun handling, this giving 20% gun damage per stack, and you have 3 stacks of 60% extra gun damage. And then there's also the target pre-science here. And then we can also get Grave Power to increase the mass stacks. So that 3 stacks becomes 6 stacks for 120% extra gun damage. And what's also crazy is you also have Mortal Terror. So whenever we critically hit, we have a 5% chance of activating our kill skills. So you can actually have a very crazy build if you have a fast firing gun, because then it's going to scale up all of these if you don't want to use the kinetic attunement. And this is before even mentioning Bloodshot, which I think is really strong, but I found more success after going all in on leeching attunement. So with this, whenever we use a rep kit, our next gunshot becomes a Bloodshot. This converts damage dealt into kinetic damage and dealing bonus damage based on our current health. This can become really crazy if you're using the Timekeeper's new shield, which will increase our overall health, removing our shield, and also with the Undead Eyes. So killing an enemy with a sniper rifle will trigger Bloodshot. Critically hitting an enemy with a sniper rifle has a 33% chance to trigger Bloodshot. And you know what's craziest about this? Bod actually counts as a sniper rifle for the purposes of this. So the best gun, it counts on these as well. It's a fantastic setup. I just really prefer the Teen Witch class setup with the green skill tree as such. I do have a build guide video on this, and I do think it's the strongest build for Vex. It doesn't even need to use any of those weapons here because, oh, that was an ideal. It actually benefits from it actually uses a lot of weapons really well because when you're using your action skill, you basically get infinite bullets with this. So I don't have my action skill active here, but if you hit them with the wave rate like that, it'll also refresh all your ammunition. So you can use really any gun that you want and have a really good time while using it. Because once you get rolling, you're going to have enough lifesteal to basically survive anything because it's going to scale off of our damage. So yeah, that's what I believe to be the best green skill tree, or best skill tree for Vex. We also, I should mention, have a few points in the enchantment here because it gives us bonus kinetic damage when our action skill is active, and we're going to have near infinite uptime. So that's bonus 37.5% kinetic damage. Then we also got the corporeal here, which gives us increased overshield capacity. And when we have an overshield, we get 18% more damage. And then we also got this, which every time we get a kill, we get additional life steal on top of all of this. So it all compiles together to make an unkillable, immortal, and high damage thanks to Blooder's power class. I think it's a lot of fun. My favorite weapon for this currently is using the Bonnie and Clyde, but as mentioned, the Bod, 7 Cents, TK's Wave, and the Hot Slugger are some really great weapons. Even the Stray, I should mention, anything kinetic based, but Bonnie and Clyde is my personal favorite. It just recently got a buff that makes it insane. 150% extra damage after you swap modes after killing a target. Now, I just want to briefly mention this build for Rafa here, which you can see is absolutely decimating this boss's health bar. This is a glitched encounter, so, or a glitched in ability, so I'm not going to include it for this list, but it is using his green skill tree with a green gun that gives you a support drone, and it's kind of crazy because then it takes the Altered Cabron here and gives you a ton of extra damage, and oddly enough, going into the blue skill tree with Permalast actually will scale this damage up almost infinitely, and you can do insane amounts of damage. 90% double damage chance. It actually can go up past that. It's a weird bugged interaction, so I'm not going to count this. So this is what I think to be Rafa's most powerful setup. It's with the Bullet Buddy Deluxe, which gives him infinite ammo, so yeah, that's not a really great showing of it, but what happens is you basically can fire this gun infinitely, and we also get a bunch of ricochet benefits here, so it's going to give us life steal. And the thing is, you're going to do pretty nuts damage whenever we can actually get a bunch of bullets off on the enemy like this, so I should have aimed down sights. That gives us extra shock damage. If you can get a bunch of critical hits, and then once we reload the gun, it does a pretty cool effect there. You can see it shreds down the health there. That's obviously not showing the best of this build. I just want to show off a weapon there that I think is pretty fun. TK's Wave always going to be a good gun, especially when we get that unlimited ammo. Now, this can be really funny on certain weapons, like the Phantom Flame here, which lets you shoot this gun ridiculously fast, despite not having really that great damage. I also really like to use the Queen's Rest, because this gets infinite ammo here whenever we use that Bullet Buddy Deluxe, and then every single shot that we land on the enemy is going to increase the damage that we deal by 17%. So once we get a bunch of them, you see it's not doing really any damage at all, but once this expires and we reload our gun now, it just destroys the health bar just like that. This works even better with the Bod, because the Bod shoots so fast. And you can see we're not really doing any damage, but just wait till Bullet Buddy Deluxe expires, and then we actually get these explode in 3, 2, 1. There goes the entire health bar of the boss. See, that's why I said Bod is the best weapon for pretty much everybody in this game, because it can do things like that even on Vault bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. So yeah. Now, this is mostly going to be using the blue skill tree. I do have some builds where I go into the mostly the red skill tree. I do have some builds where I go in the blue skill tree and get things like first impression, but the red skill tree is so powerful, especially with some of these abilities here, which buff up our indirect projectiles. Now, for those who don't know, indirect projectiles are anything that are not directly fired from our gun. This includes ricochets. It also counts for thrown guns, anything else related to like our Peacebreaker cannons as well. So that gives us 45% bonus damage or extra damage on top of that, which is great. I really like the Aaron Spark because this gives us bonus incendiary damage, 40%. So all indirect projectiles will give that extra fire damage. This is actually a massive buff to our overall damage because any damage buffs get applied to this bonus damage as well. I also like to take 1 point into the hostile acquisition here because it gives you lifesteal. You don't need any more than 1 point into this because your indirect projectiles are going to keep you full pretty much unless you're going to get one shot by a boss. So anything more than this almost feels like a waste. Also, getting your indirect projectiles another chance to redirect is great. And there's actually a class mod that can give you an increased chance on top of that. We also got ourselves a Vitriol here, which gives us a increase to our damage after reloading. So the Hot Slugger becomes really good, especially with that giving a 55% damage bonus and the first impression giving a 50% damage bonus. We also have the Temerario here, which will give us increased gun damage per stack in our overdrive. This becomes pretty crazy too. It loses our gun handling, but we can do pretty absurd damage numbers with that. We can also double our overdrive bonuses here, which is really nice. We get some straight up bonuses to our gun damage and also give us overall damage dealt whenever our shields are full. But the real star of the show with the Peacebreaker cannons is Bullet Buddy Deluxe. This gives us that infinite ammo, which makes the Bod so useful. The Queen's Rest. Anything with the Toric Stickies are going to be super useful, but really any gun, especially ones that run out of ammunition really quickly, because now you can fire them pretty much infinitely. And it also will give you bonus incendiary damage, so up to 25% extra fire damage based on how full our gun is. We also have Instinto here, which is really good because this gives our Peacebreaker cannons critical hit chance. And this has a whole bunch of different effects, especially if you're going to use the double auto shot, which has the shotguns which can ricochet around. Really good. You can almost become AFK utilizing both of these here. I personally prefer Bullet Buddy Deluxe. It allows you to shred through every single boss in the game really easily. And the Dancer class mod is really great. Gives us bonus overdrive abilities, and it'll keep us in overdrive as long as we have our action skill up, which is great for this build. I also like the Instigator. Some people hate it, but basically it gives you an upwards of 100% gun damage bonus whenever our Peacebreaker cannons fire at an enemy and don't stop firing at that enemy. So if they fire at an enemy 50 times, you get a 100% gun damage bonus for every stack, or 2% for every stack of Instigator here. This is really good. And it also comes with a lot of really good skill rolls too. So it's my personal preference. Some people don't like it. And this is what I'm mentioning. The lateral planking now getting an extra stack. The Alcatran giving you extra status effect chance on top of that, and also bonus shock damage. And again, more fire rate is always good too. That's my personal preference. You want to use the Peak Breaker cannons. I think it's really powerful with that, but it's your choice. Now, Amon used to be what people thought to be the worst Vault Hunter. You can see he's actually absurd. This is a heavy ordnance. You get infinite bullets with it. And if you don't want to use that, you can also use a rocket launcher, and you can see the right-hand side, infinite ammo. It's crazy. And this is using his skill tree too, so yeah. This is an interaction with his blue skill tree where the tail of the comet, whenever we deal ordnance damage, there's a chance to apply a cryo status effect over time. This has a 30% chance of applying, and with a fast-firing gun, you can apply it often. Now, what's also crazy is that the Primal Surge, whenever we apply a status effect, which we have many ways to do that, there's a chance to partially restore his shield and ammo. So 25% chance of this happening, it'll restore 30% of the ammo, which is absurd because this applies to heavy ordnances. Heavy ordnances, oddly enough, count as guns. They count as both guns and ordnances, so they receive double benefits, which is really nice, especially if you can increase your gun damage somehow, or your ordnance damage, because Scorched Kairos will give you increases to it, and if you have gun damage increases, you're going to boost that up even further. And that's before you even mention Full Spectrum Arsenal, which will now benefit from gun damage increases, so we can add another half of our gun damages on top of our heavy ordnance. So if you have, let's say, 100% boost to your gun damage, you're going to get that 100% onto your heavy ordnance, and then 50% of that onto your heavy ordnance again, so that's crazy. Absolutely absurd. You also can get some pretty fun effects with the cryo affinities here, which will further scale up our damage type. With a single point into blackout, they actually fixed this, but previously, if you just put one into here, you now have the critical hit chance, and then critical hits from direct ordnance damage will apply shocked. They did change this to now apply shocked, which is great. Also, with our class mod, gaining overshield from ordnance without having to go into here is really nice. I will get to the class mod in a moment, but another huge component of this build is actually the red skill tree. Heavy Plague gives us more shield, and we get our shields back really fast through a few different abilities. Gut Punch will decrease the damage that we take by 40% and increase the damage we deal to an enemy by 20 every time we deal ordnance or melee damage. And then on top of that, the best part here is the Berserk. So whenever Amon activates our Forge skill, which is going to be the Firewall. I don't like using a Capstone because the Firewall will actually speed up and increase the damage of our projectiles, which is crazy. None of the other Capstones actually benefit us that much. And it keeps our Forge skill cooldown at 50 seconds, so a little bit faster time to get our Berserk back. This also gives us bonus cryo damage. So bonus damages, again, they get impacted from our other, it increases the gun damage really well. So it's bonus cryo damage that's on top of the already bonus cryo damage we got from Tail of the Comet. And just wait, folks, it gets even better because there is only red whenever you get a kill. While Berserk is active, it'll partially restore the duration. It used to be 9 seconds, which was really good. Now it's only 4 seconds, which is not that great. But it gives us even further increased bonus cryo damage from Berserk. 60% per kill up to a maximum of 600% bonus damage. That is nuts. So yeah, you're going to get that often. Now, if you do have some extra points, you can get by Touch's Death. So whenever you deal melee damage, there's a chance to activate the kill skills, which will give you your there is only red. And if you use a certain class mode that gives you all these different Forge drones, you can actually activate that pretty much infinitely, which is kind of silly, but this is going to scale really well when the level cap increases. Now, I mentioned the class mod. We're actually going to use a purple class mod, believe it or not. This one, because it gives us skill points into 2 of the blue ones here, so we get extra ordnance damage. That's amazing. We also then get 6% of ordnance damage applied to overshield, so we're very survivable. But it gives us 1 point in the green skill tree that's impossible for us to get with endless bombardment. Grenades and heavy ordnance have a chance to refund ammo upon damaging enemies. So yeah, if we don't get the infinite ammo from our Tail of the Comet into the Primal Surge, this is going to keep us topped up with endless bombardment. We basically can't run out of, like, I've never ran out of ordnance while using this. You can destroy every single boss in the game using this, every vault boss. I have tons of videos on my channel of builds utilizing this, so if you want to see a full breakdown, you can check that out. You don't even have to use your ordinances because he's already really good with his guns too. So yeah, overall, really fun build that I think is going to be one of the strongest, especially going into the higher level cap. And finally, we have Harlowe, who is actually pretty absurd because she also has ways to get infinite ammo. And that's kind of a trend because it empowers some of these guns to be able to delete some of the bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 really quickly. So you can see there, we have infinite ammo. It actually has longer duration than any other Vault Hunter. And I'm just going to change the damage. There we go. You couldn't even see the health bar disappear on this boss. It disappeared that quickly. This shreds boss in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 really fast. And you don't even have to use Torgue Stickies. You can actually do a crazy amount of damage with specific guns, especially if you can get headshots off, because this is going to allow us, the critical hits is what's keeping us basically firing infinitely. That shredded his second health bar immediately. This build is just crazy, and this is coming from the critical funding. So whenever we critically hit an enemy, we gain a chance to entangle the enemy and refill a portion of our gun magazine. This is actually pretty crazy because we can make every single shot a critical hit. And no, I'm not talking the crit knife, which was nerfed. This is due to an interaction if we use the nuclear winter here. So this will give us additional bonus cryo damage and radiation damage whenever we have our flux generator out. Why this is so useful is this actually counts as action skill damage. And whenever we have excited state, we get increased critical hit damage. But whenever an enemy is damaged by an action skill, the next shot that will be fired will be an automatic critical hit. These make every gunshot a critical hit because we're dealing our action damage, which then makes the next shot a critical hit, which is action damage, which, you know, it's an infinite loop. It's actually absurd. Not to mention, we also have some pretty good life steal. So we get life steal against entangled enemies, and this applies to our allies. So we're really good when playing with friends. Not only that, we also have the confirmative reality. So whenever we shoot an entangled enemy, she and all allies restore a portion of action skill cooldown. So we can get, this actually keeps our action skill up infinitely and also gives our teammates it back really fast. Critical hits, reapplying that extra life steal. We also get shield capacity when our action skill damages an enemy and can apply to overshield. Decoherence being extremely powerful. Harlowe deals increased damage with all sources to entangled enemies. Enemies inside of our flux generator will take further increased damage. And this is bonus damage, 25% and 15%. Crazy. We also get a 36% bonus depending on if we have overshield, which we're likely always going to have. We can then get critical hits with guns, deal bonus radiation damage, so 40% bonus radiation damage. This setup is actually crazy. We also have the latent charge, deal bonus damage with guns, melee attacks, and action skills when we have overshield. So as mentioned, we have lots of really powerful synergetic combinations. It's actually nuts. I think this build is this is probably the strongest build in the game in my opinion, because you get infinite ammo, you can fire shots like crazy, and it's kind of similar to Amon where this actually works and applies to our ordinances as well. So yeah, we throw out our flux generator there, and then we can rip out our heavy ordnance, fire away. You can see on the right hand side of the screen that my ammo is staying full, not dropping unless I miss my shots. And yeah, it shreds through bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 really quickly. So yeah, that's not even optimizing for the heavy ordnance. I'm optimized for gun damage right now and different guns. Yeah, it's crazy. And you have lots of different class mod choice. And actually what's funny is one of the class mods for the stasis is one of the best, weirdly enough, because this will, if we didn't have the critical funding, give us our action skill back immediately. So yeah, Harlowe's got a lot of really good builds. I previously thought that neutron capture was our best because this was absurd. It added 4% of our action skill damage to our gunshots. That would delete any boss with Katagawa's Revenge. That got nerfed really hard. But I think the green skill tree is now the strongest. It's really between this, Rafa's red skill tree, Amon's blue and red combination, and Vex's green. They're all really, really strong, but I think that this one might be the best. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm always curious to hear what other people say. I've done builds on every single one of these, so if you're curious, I'll have those linked in the description. And I hope you have a great day. Subscribe for more, and we'll catch you all in the next video.